everyone, welcome to the third episode of Karma's Kitchen. Today I'm making apple and raspberry crumble. So if you enjoy learning, cooking and sharing, then come and join me here in Karma's Kitchen. Hi everyone, today here in my kitchen I am making apple and raspberry crumble. This is a really yummy recipe to make. It is reasonably easy to put together. The amount of ingredients isn't too over the top. Yeah, it's just a great recipe to make for family. It's a great recipe if you're having people coming around. It's a bit of a crowd pleaser is what it is. It has a very moreish crust to it. And when that crust is combined with the apple and the raspberries and the maple syrup, oh, it's just super, super, super yummy. You just have to take my word for it. It really is. It is. So I'm not going to waffle on too much now at this point because we've got a few ingredients to get through. So let's get to these ingredients, which are apple. You need 1 kilo or 2 pounds of apple. If you have no means of measurement, that would be about 8 snack size apples. And I went with Pink Lady apples purely because they were on special. As long as they are a sweet variety of apple, that's fine, because this recipe doesn't have a lot of added sugar in it. So some of the sweetness is coming from the apples itself. Okay, the next ingredient is raspberries. And I just went with frozen raspberries. They are a lot cheaper because you need 4 cups of raspberries, 500 grams, 1 pound. So yeah, that can get a bit pricey if you're buying fresh. And look, when it comes to frozen, they are snap frozen from fresh, so they still retain all their nutrition that was there when they were picked. So don't ever feel bad or worry about frozen fruit and vegetables. They're still very, very healthy for you. Okay, our next ingredient is 2 cups of wholemeal plain flour. And you don't have to use wholemeal plain flour if you don't want to. That's just my personal preference. I like the extra fiber in it. It makes something which is basically refined carb just a little bit healthier, like a little bit, but all counts. But if it's not something that's your thing, then that's fine. Just use normal plain flour. If you need gluten-free, you can use oat flour, or you can use plain gluten-free flour. Yeah, that's flour. Rolled oats is the next one, and you need 2 cups of that as well. Again, if you need gluten-free, then just make sure it's got the certification on the package that it is indeed gluten-free. Geez, what else have we got? That's the first lot. The next lot is 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, and I'm not going to lift that up because I will spill it everywhere, is your maple syrup. And you need 1/2 cup of maple syrup, and you need a tablespoon for a tablespoon extra. And the very last ingredient, because I think I mentioned that this doesn't use butter. If I didn't, I have now. This doesn't use butter. What it does use is almond butter. And I've gone for this brand of almond butter. And I'm not going to lie, this is not cheap. That was $7 on special, and they're about $7 to $9. They're not a cheap thing to buy. There is absolutely nothing that says that you can't use butter if that's what you'd prefer, and certainly for a lot of people that is a more economical option. You can use other nut butters except for peanut butter, and that's just because of the flavor that it's going to bring into the crumble. Peanut butter, it won't work. But you can use cashew butter as well if you prefer to use that. I think it's equally as expensive, but if that's your preference, you can use that, not a problem. I don't really buy things like almond butter, and I haven't bought it just for this recipe. I've bought it for several, which is the only thing that justifies it for me to spend that amount of money on a paste. Yeah, like I said, if money is an issue, you can just go back to using butter. And what are we, a quarter cup? So you're looking about 80 grams of butter, which you would want to soften down. Okay, that's all I can think of for the recipes and substitutions. If you can think of any more substitutions that people are able to use, or any other ways that people might save money, then please let me know in the comments below. Okay, let's get to putting this all together into a crumble. Hello, here we are with the apples frying. You need your stove at a medium-high heat, and you will then add the apples to the frying pan. Don't add any oil, let them soften on their own. If you find they do stick, just add a little bit of water to help stop them from sticking. If you've got a non-stick frying pan, you shouldn't have any problems though. And we just want to fry them like this for around about 7 minutes until they get a little bit soft. At the end of that, we're going to add our little extra bit of maple syrup just to help them soak in. It just gives the apples that extra little bit of niceness. And then once that's done, they'll be going into a pie pan. And this is a 24 centimeter or 9.5 inch pan. If you don't have a glass pie one like this, if you just use an 11 inch pan or a 28 centimeter square pan, or a 3 by 9 inch rectangular pan, which is about 32 by 15 centimeters, it makes a decent amount. Alright, my apples are nearly done. So at this point I'm going to add in the extra maple syrup. And you just need a tablespoon. Now you can get all different types of maple syrup, and most of them actually say maple flavored. The one that I've purchased, the Queen, that's 100% maple syrup. It is like the almond butter, it is not cheap, but I prefer to do that because if you're wanting to cook with maple syrup, then you're wanting to cook with maple syrup, not sugar flavored like maple syrup. So for me it's an issue of the price justifies itself for the quality of the product that you're buying. If you don't like maple syrup, you can use honey, but it is a very different flavor. So I think it would still be okay with honey, but I wouldn't recommend that. That would be the only two things, is maple syrup and honey. Anything else, the flavor would be too different. I don't think it would come out quite as nice. Alright, when your apples have softened a little bit, they come off the heat and into your pie dish. Nice and easy. I'm just going to let that cool down before I put the raspberries on top, and while it's cooling down we'll make the crumble. Okay, so here I am with the crumble and all of its bits and pieces, and it's pretty simple. So we have our flour and we add the baking powder into that, just sprinkle that in, and then the salt. I just use a fork personally. I find it quicker and easier, and just whisk everything in together like that, and that makes sure that everything's all distributed evenly throughout the flour rather than just in one lump. But if you really want to, you can use a flour sifter. Right, once you've done that, you then have the oats. I've got a spatula, that'll make sense in a moment. And just mix the oats through so that they're all well coated in the flour. And then make a little bit of a well, and this is why you want the spatula. You probably can use your hands, and normally I am a hands person, but for something like this it's just too messy. Alright, into your well pour your maple syrup, get every last drop, and your almond butter. If you are using butter at this point, don't add your butter just yet. Do that last. So you would want to mix in your maple syrup, and then once all that's mixed in, then mix in your butter. And make sure your butter's really, really soft too. It's sticky. Alright. Get it all mixed in. As thoroughly as you can. And at this point, if you want, you can use your hands, which I'm gonna, because you want as much of this flour as possible coated in the maple syrup and the almond butter. So nice and crumbly, like you would with any other crumble. That looks pretty good. Alright, that's the crumble. It's pretty easy. Next is our apples again that have been cooling slightly, and I'm now going to add the raspberries. If you don't like raspberries, you can use blueberries, or you can use a combination of raspberries and blueberries. If you're not really a berry person, you can use pears and do apple and pear. Yeah, I think at this point I'm going to give my fun fact. This episode's fun nutrition fact: raspberries. Their colour comes from a chemical compound called anthocyanins. And they are a water-soluble pigment, and depending on their pH, that means their level of acidity, you will get red, purple, blue, or black. There you go. And they, in humans, these compounds have been shown to have anti-diabetic, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, as well as weight loss effects in humans. So raspberries, seriously good for you to eat. All right, now we just put the crumble on top. Raspberries also contain elegotannins. I know that's the word, huh? Elegotannins. And in humans as well, they have anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer properties. They're an antioxidant, but they're also prebiotic, and they've been shown to have cardioprotective properties for humans. So again, really, really good reason to eat your raspberries. And that is my fun nutritional fact for this episode. Whoa. Now, as this cooks, if you've never cooked a crumble before, as this cooks, the apples are going to continue to reduce down in size. So if, like me, your pie is getting quite a high crust, it's not going to end up being this high when it's finished cooking. It will actually reduce down. Alright. Everything's on securely. Okay. It's now time for me to wash my hands and then get this in the oven. So I've washed my hands and we are ready to put this crumble into the oven. You will need to preheat your oven to 425 Fahrenheit. That is 220 centigrade. And if you're using a fan forced oven like me, then it'll be 200 centigrade. Okay, let's get it in. And we're going to bake our crumble for 20 minutes or until the crumble is nice and golden brown over the top. So I'll see you in 20 minutes. Well, the crumble's done. Took 20 minutes exactly in my oven. It probably stood around for another 20 minutes while I got myself organized and together. So, but it probably doesn't need that long on standing really. It probably only needs 10 to 15 minutes depending on how hot you like your crumbles. All up, including prep, you'd probably be looking about 35 minutes, which is not too bad. That's about the average time it takes for most dinners to cook as well. I'm not going to lift this up to the camera because it's actually really heavy. So you definitely get your money's worth from this crumble. This though is my plate of crumble. There we are. The nice juicy apple. I'm actually having yogurt with my crumble. I'm somebody who's not very good with cold things. So it's got to be really, really hot weather for me to want to eat things like ice cream. But I found the coconut yogurts that you now get on the market go really, really well with all different kinds of desserts and cakes and even breakfast cereal. So if you have problems with cold things too, that might be an option. All right, And I mean, that pretty much brings me to it with the crumble, except for one last thing. They don't look very pretty, but it's not always about looks. These are apple chips. And when you were prepping your apples, you're taking the peel off. And well, what do you do with it? I'm in the fortunate position that I have a lot of choices. I could put it in my compost, I could feed it to my chickens, but what if they're not options for you? Well, you can make apple chips from the skins, and it's super, super easy. The only thing you need to do is not forget they're in the oven, because they do take a while. Just get a baking tray with some baking paper, sprinkle them with 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of caster sugar, or cinnamon sugar if you want to, but you probably have to use a bit more if you're using cinnamon sugar. And once you've sprinkled them with the cinnamon and the sugar, put them into your oven at 100 degrees Celsius or 212 Fahrenheit or 80 degrees fan forced. And you want to do that for about 2 to 2.5 hours. Mine took 2.5 hours. It might be good to set a timer. And yeah, like I said, they're not pretty, but they do actually taste really, really good. You get a really nice cinnamon apple pop. So if you like that flavor, try it. It's really good, and you know, it stops a bit of food wastage as well. And that's about all I can say about this apple crumble, except I am absolutely certain you're gonna love it when you try it. And yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, please like. If you have any comments or questions, don't forget to leave them down in the comments below. If you like this and have liked others and would like to like more, please subscribe. It's somewhere around here, somewhere. Yeah, thank you for joining me here in my kitchen. It is always a pleasure to cook along with you. And I hope I see you again next time here in Karma's kitchen. I have lunch. Oh, that's good. Oh yeah. Bye.